my name is Allie Schmidt. This is my dad, Dan. He owns Caitlin's Glass.
Thanks, Allie. Things like doors and windows go into making a house. But when it's your home, you expect more, like the great service and selection you'll get from Caitlin's Glass. Vinyl replacement windows from Caitlin's come with a lifetime warranty, including accidental glass breakage replacement. Also ask for custom shower doors and many other products and services. Call 962-1636, locally owned with local employees for nearly 30 years.
Caitlin's Glass, the clear choice.
I want to share something that's become a big part of the BeTempered mission, Patreon. Now, if you've never used it before, Patreon is a platform where we can build community together. It's not just about supporting the podcast. It's about having a space where we can connect on a deeper level, encourage one another, and walk this journey of faith, resilience, and perseverance side by side. Here's how it works. You can join as a free member and get access to daily posts, behind-the-scenes updates, encouragement, and some things I don't always put out on other platforms. And if you feel called to support the mission financially, there are different levels where you can do that too. That support helps us keep producing the podcast, creating gear, hosting events, and sharing stories that we believe can truly impact lives. And here's the cool part. Patreon has a free app you can download right on your phone. It works just like Facebook or Instagram, but it's built specifically for our community. You'll be able to scroll through posts, watch videos, listen to content, and interact with others who are on the same journey. At the end of the day, this isn't just about content, it's about connection. It's about building something together, not just me and Ben putting out episodes, but a family of people committed to growing stronger through real stories and real faith. So whether you just want to hop on as a free member or you feel called to support in a bigger way, Patreon is the door into that community. Because at the heart of BeTempered has always been simple, real stories, raw truth, resilient faith, so that even one person out there that hears what they need to hear, and Patreon helps make that possible.
Welcome to the BeTempered podcast, where we explore the art of finding balance in a chaotic world.
Join us as we delve into insightful conversations, practical tips, and inspiring stories to help you navigate life's ups and downs with grace and resilience.
We're your host, Dan Schmidt and
Ben Spahr.
Let's embark on a journey to live our best lives.
This is BeTempered. Dear God, thank you for a beautiful day here today. And as we dive into this story here, and could be a tough one for us. And we just ask that you give us strength, give us guidance, give us peace. Be with Tracy as she goes through her story and just give her confidence and the peace over you. And whatever ears need to hear this, Lord, we just ask that you direct them there. And anything that we can do, Lord, we just ask that you open our eyes so we can see it and do it and have the confidence in you that you'll provide the guidance for us to do. And it's in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Well, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the BeTempered podcast, episode number
96.
Getting closer to 100.
Yeah, can't wait for everybody to see what we have in store.
That's right, Sean. Hey, today's episode is going to be powerful. It's going to be challenging, and it's going to be amazing. And this episode contains discussions of childhood sexual abuse and suicide, so listener discretion is advised. Some stories are heavy, and today is one of them. Tracy Nutt grew up carrying a secret that no child should ever have to carry. To the outside world, everything may have looked normal, even respectable. But inside her home, there was fear, confusion, and trauma that would shape her life in ways few could see. She battled feelings of unworthiness, depression, and silence. And at a young age, the weight of it all nearly cost her everything. This conversation isn't about reliving pain. It's about bringing truth into the light. It's about what happens when someone finally finds the courage to speak. And it's about the faith and redemption that followed when Tracy chose to share her story. If you're listening today and carrying something you've never spoken out loud, this episode is for you. Tracy, welcome to the BeTempered podcast.
Thanks. You're making me cry already.
Not intentional at all. You know, you reached out to me quite some time ago. I think it was back in the summer, and hadn't really had a conversation like that before when you shared some things with me. And then we met and got a little more in depth into your testimony. And again, it was one of those testimonies that I just couldn't comprehend. And, you know, I have 3 daughters, many nieces. And it was just hard for me to even fathom and to wrap my mind around how someone could do what happened to you as a young child, how that was even possible. And then I watched the movie. What is the movie called? I can't remember the name. The most recent movie of the child sex trafficking. Tim
Ballard.
Tim Ballard. What's the name of that movie? None of us can remember.
Sound of Freedom.
Sound of Freedom.
Yes.
I watched that with my wife. And as soon as that movie was over, I thought of you. And I thought, we've got to get Tracy up in studio to share her story, because there's a little girl out there who's going through what you went through, or has been going through it, and is afraid to say anything. And so with all that being said, you're here today, and we are grateful that you are here today. And you know how we like to start every podcast is to start from the beginning. So if you would talk about what life was like for you growing up as a kid.
Well, my parents were divorced when I was very young. I don't even remember them being together. And my mom grew up in foster homes, and her identity was, she didn't know what her identity was. She needed something to hold on to. So once she was divorced, she had 2 daughters to raise, and in steps Jim. He was 25 years older than her. He promised her the world, security. He owned a funeral home, had money, respect in the community. And that's what I remember. And those are my earliest memories. I don't even remember my mom and dad being together ever. I do want to say that there were other children in the home, and I will never assume to speak for them. I truly believe that kids can have different experiences in the same household. So I will never speak for my sister or my brother. Never. I was probably about 3, 4, maybe. I think it was about 3, because we lived above the funeral home. And Jim made it a big deal that we were going to go to his brother's for the weekend, and we were going to have this fun, exciting weekend with him at the Ohio State Fair. And Philip had a cot, a bunk bed cot. I was the youngest. I slept on the bottom. Philip came downstairs and molested me. And
at 3 years old?
Mm-hmm. And I didn't understand it. I mean, my little mind didn't understand what that was. Why? And of course, it was our little secret. So after the weekend, I go home and try to be normal, but still not understanding what had happened. So life goes on. The next year, Mom's packing up our stuff to go back to Phillips for the fun weekend at Ohio State. And we had learned early on, because we lived above the funeral home, that, you had to be quiet because it was business. I threw a fit, like epic proportion fit, because I wasn't going to Phillips again. And I remember Jim coming up the stairs and grabbing hold of my arm, dragging me downstairs and into the embalming room. And at the time, there was a little baby that had died. And he picked me up and put me face to face with that little child and said, "This is what happens when little girls don't do what they're supposed to and tell secrets." I didn't understand it then. Obviously, I was too young, but that was the beginning of the manipulation. That was the beginning of the game. So I went to Phillips, and that happened for several years. And one year, it was like we had sold the business, packed up, moved to Eaton. I didn't understand it, didn't know why, but I was grateful because I was hopeful that it ended. We hadn't lived in Eaton very long, and Jim came into my room and crawled in bed with me and molested me. And for me, I thought, this nightmare had ended. It was just the monster had changed.
Can I ask you, did you ever know your real dad?
Yeah, my dad is still alive. He still lives in Urbana. He was disappointed that I wasn't a boy and never really had anything to do with me. Once we moved to Eaton, then the visitation pretty much stopped. He did take us for visitation when we still lived in Urbana, because that's where he lived. But I could tell, it was just going through the motions. It was his weekend, and most of the time I spent it with my grandma, which she was the most godly woman I knew, and she would take me to church, and that's how I first heard of God. I mean, we went to a Catholic school, but that was just going through the motions as well. But again, I mean, we moved to Eaton, and he had gotten a job at a funeral home and became the businessman that, respected businessman and community member, Kiwanis Club. And so everybody thought he was just this nice guy, and I lived in terror.
What was school like for you?
I hoped it was an escape, but it wasn't. Because you learned early not to get close to people. So I didn't form a lot of real friendships because you can't, because you're afraid to tell that secret. If you get too close, you might tell. So there's always a distance between you and anybody.
So your whole, young childhood, I can imagine you just feeling less than, just
Always.
feeling like you can't say anything, you can't do anything. You're just living in constant fear.
Always.
What keeps you going?
At that point, I didn't know. I always felt so dirty, so unwanted. At 13 was the first time I tried to kill myself. And we'd gone to church every day, every Sunday. Mom and Jim didn't go. They'd have somebody pick us up and take us. We went to Sunday school, and I was mad at God. I was mad. I thought, you can't possibly be a good God if you allow this to happen. That's how my young mind worked. So when I did pray, it was, let me die. Let me die. Let me die. Why can't you let me die? So at 13, was the first time, and I had taken a bunch of aspirin. I just went into Mom's medicine closet or cabinet and got her aspirin bottle, and she came into my room actually, and she was looking for the aspirin. And she saw what I was doing, and I was like, I can't even do that right. Can't even do that right. So for me, it was another failure because I carried it all. What he did to me, I carried. Somehow it was my fault. It must have been something I did or said or how I looked or how I was or, so every word that was spoken over me was somehow my fault. Every negative word, my fault. If I didn't do good in school, my fault. If I didn't excel in track or volleyball, my fault. It wasn't that the team didn't do well, my fault. Everything was my fault. So I carried all of this.
Did your mom have any clue?
She didn't until after we got in a really big fight one time, shortly after I had tried to kill myself. And we were screaming at one another. And I basically told her, and she slapped me and said never to say terrible things like that about Jim again. But by this point, he had done so many things. Like, he would tell her that I didn't come home right after school to take care of my brother. I didn't start supper like I was supposed to. I didn't do my chores. I didn't do all these things, yet I did. So she believes that I didn't do these things. So in her mind, I'm this awful person. And in my mind, I hate my mom, because she doesn't believe me and she's allowing this to happen. She has to know. She has to know. And that's all I can think. She has to know he's doing this to me. And why won't she stop it?
What about friends in school when you got older?
No, I
Just kept to yourself again?
yeah, I mean, there were people that I would hang out with, but not like great friends.
Right.
I did have one, Tammy, and towards my senior year, I loved her mom so much. I cry. Her mom worked at Dr. Seal's office. So a lot of times after school, I'd just walk over there with my go bag like I was a Navy SEAL or something. You know, I had my go bag. And I'd walk over there and she'd just look at me and she says, I'll be off in a little bit. She never asked questions. She just let me go home with her. And I would go home with her for about a week, and Mom would call and say, it's time to come home. And I'd go home for a day or two and pack my go bag and go. But during all this, I ran track, played volleyball, and I quit it all because it's like, I'm not worthy of any of this. I don't deserve to do any of this. And my volleyball coach, I mean, bless her heart, she would even stop and pick me up. And there were times I so bad wanted to say, just don't make me go back. Please don't make me go back. But it was the secret. I mean, and he was a funeral director, and he had me convinced that he could make my mom die and nobody would question it. And as a young girl, I believed that.
So how does it stop?
I was 17, and I had gone to my dad in Urbana, and I asked for help. I told him basically
what was going on?
The basic.
Right.
And his exact words were, just keep your head down. You've only got a year left and you can leave. So
that just reaffirms all your thoughts, all
Yep.
those negative, I'm not worthy.
Yep. Nobody loves me. Nobody cares what's happening. It doesn't matter. I don't matter. I'm not necessary. So I go home, walk to my mom's medicine cabinet again. I grab every pill that's in there. Every one of them. Go to my bathroom. I'm taking every pill. I know my mom had seizure medicine. Jim had heart medicine. I mean, I don't know what else. I'm just taking everything. And if you've had surgery, you know what it feels like when you start to go under. I could feel that. And for me, I'd been praying for years. Let me die. Let me die. That was my prayer. That was the only thing I ever prayed. Let me die. Let me die. So when I started to feel that was the first time I was thankful that God was answering a prayer. Because he was letting me die. And then my mom breaks down the door. She sees what's happening. She sees all these empty bottles. She's screaming at Jim to get some help. And Jim just looks at me and says, she wants to die, let her die. So my mom gets up and she runs, and this is the time there's no cell phones. So she calls for an ambulance, and he leans over and tells me, remember, I can make it look like your mom just died of natural causes. So the ambulance comes and they do what they do when you take a lot of pills, and I'm in the hospital for several days, and they want me to talk and I don't talk, and I go home and I think I can't do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. I can't die. I can't survive. But the one thing that happened on that floor, when my mom left and Jim walked out, I felt a presence. There was something there, and it wasn't me, it wasn't them, it wasn't. All this time I was praying to die. And for the first time in my life, I heard God tell me, this isn't the end of your story. I'm not done with you yet.
How did that make you feel?
I was seen. Somebody heard me. For the first time in my life.
So what happens next?
Well, I take my lunch money and I buy a knife. And I'm prepared to do whatever it takes. And I put it under my pillow. And all this time I'm pushing my dresser in front of my door, hoping that would stop him, but he would just push it, come in anyway. He grabbed my arms, and a lot of times he'd put his hand over my mouth. So COVID wasn't good for me. I don't do well with things over my face. But I got one arm free, and I grabbed that knife and I put it to his throat. I just told him, I'm not afraid to do this. You will leave me alone. You will leave me alone and never touch me again. And I don't know if it was him, supernatural power. I don't know. I don't know if God did it. I think God did it. I swear God did it. But he got off of me and walked to that door and turned around and looked at me. He didn't say a word, but I've never seen anything more evil in my life than that face.
I would imagine that's etched in your mind.
Forever. I still have nightmares, no matter how much I've worked on myself, I've worked through the trauma. There are still times I have nightmares.
So was that the end of?
That was it. That was the last time. I was 17. I graduated from high school, packed my earthly belongings, which was like 2 bags. Rob picked me up. We moved out. We got married. We had a baby. And it was, I don't know, the whole process of having this child was, I don't know, I didn't know it then and I didn't understand it, but because God told me on that floor, he wasn't done with me. So I knew I had a purpose. There was something. So when I found out I was pregnant, I was like, okay, this is why I didn't die that day. And then I was 12 weeks along, and I'm having these terrible pains, and so they take me to the hospital, and they tell me it's probably a tubal pregnancy, and I'm just like, no. So again, I'm mad at God. I'm furious. Why are you doing this to me? You gave me this child, and now you're taking him away from me. Why? They've done every test. They're poking and prodding, and so they take me back for this ultrasound, and I'm not looking. I'm crying. I'm in my mind. I'm screaming at God. I can't imagine why he would do this to me. And so the tech finally says, you need to look at this. And I'm like, I can't look at this. I can't. Just can't. And she says, you need to look at this. So I finally turn and look, and she says, this is your uterus, and this is your little baby. It's right where it's supposed to be. And I'm like, okay. Now what? She says, well, now we need to figure out what else is wrong. Okay. Thank you, God. Sorry about that. Sorry about all the screaming and the anger and the. So in one breath, I'm mad, and the next, I'm thanking him. But that's how my life kind of went with him, because I didn't understand. Nobody had ever talked to me about a personal relationship with God. It was, you sit down, you obey, and you go on with your life. You go on Sundays, and that's it. So they figure out my appendix is about to rupture. So I have surgery, and I'm awake for it because they can only give me a spinal when I'm pregnant. So I'm awake, and they say, well, you have a 50-50 chance of not having a miscarriage afterwards. And I'm just like, no, this is not happening. We're going to have this baby. So I have this surgery. I'm healing up well. Then I'm laying on the couch one day, and my head feels like it's going to explode. And I'm just like, what's happening to me? Mouth is drooping. I can't see. I'm like, what's going on with me? They take me to the hospital. I think she's having a stroke. I'm like, what? My first migraine ever turns out to be a migraine. It's not a stroke. It's a migraine. Beginning of my 9th month, I have kidney stones. I sit in the hospital for 5 days till I pass kidney stones. And I'm like, this child. Wow, God. Wow. What's happening here? So 3 weeks later, I go back and I deliver this child. And I look at him, and I'm sobbing, and I realize this is my purpose, what I was meant to be.
A mom.
A mom. I was meant to be this little boy's mom. That's why God didn't let me die that day. He said, there's going to be another you in this world that's healthy, mentally, physically, spiritually, and you're going to do it.
So you're a mom. What's life look like for you with your faith at this point in time, going through everything that you went through? I would imagine it's still.
I'm still struggling.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still struggling. Because now I've got this little being that's depending on me, and I'm still living in this land of what ifs. You know, what if I allow somebody else in his life? What if I let him go down the street? What if I let him go to the neighbors? What if, I mean, we lived back a long lane in West Manchester, and he had limitations where he could ride his bike, you know, because I thought, you know, he could be on 127 to 70, you know, 40, and somebody could take him and it'd be gone. And so my mind was always racing on the what ifs, because I knew what could happen to kids. I understood it. So Dustin's life was controlled by my trauma. And unresolved trauma becomes trauma multiplied. And I had to figure out a way to stop that cycle for him. I just didn't know how. Because it was in my DNA, you know, it was.
That's all you ever knew.
Yeah. I grew up being that.
So how do you get through that? How do you make that change?
I had my first panic attack when Dustin was about 6 months old. And I didn't understand it. Didn't know what was going on with me. Couldn't even put a name to it. But I knew I needed help. And at first I wasn't willing to talk to anybody, because it wasn't, even if I did talk to him, it wasn't going to be, I'm not going to tell you my story. I'm just going to tell you that I'm having depression and anxiety and all this. So I started reading my Bible, and that's when I started getting closer to God and understanding that everything that I went through was not his design. He didn't plan any of that for my life. I wasn't made for that. And it took me years to get to the point where I understood and really came to terms with, I'm not that little girl anymore. And for me, it was looking at Dustin and knowing that I had to be mentally and spiritually healthy for him. Because I had to break that cycle for him. And it was it was a long process. And it's still going on. I mean, I still struggle days. I still struggle months. You know, I still deal with depression. And I think I always will until the day I look Jesus in the eye. You know, I think that's the day that I will be truly healed.
At some point in time, talk a little bit about you and your mom going to church, what we just talked about a little bit ago. Kind of get into that a little bit, because I think that's from our conversation, you know, months ago and then here today, it sounds like that was really a powerful time of healing for you. Yeah. So talk about that.
After Jim died, in 97, I think it was 98. I don't remember, but I craved a relationship with my mom. I needed that, and I knew that she was never going to talk about it, and I didn't really want to. So we just kind of started over just from there, you know, from that point. And after he died, Mom and I just started spending time together and building a relationship from that point. We built a new house, and my mom loved flowers, so she would come out and, she would help me design my flower beds, and she would spend hours planting them and pulling weeds and just anything to spend time with me. And one day she said to me, she says, I think I'm going to try this church that goes to the Y. And at that point it was Crossroads. Would you want to go? I said, sure, I'll go with you. So we went there for several years before they merged back in with the Methodist Church. And we went there for a while. And then, you know, all this time, she and I are building this relationship. And it was so healing because I got to see a part of my mom that I admired, that I loved, that wasn't attached to him. And again, she grew up in foster homes, so she never really had, you know, the normal upbringing either. And she craved that as well. And I don't think she ever quite healed from that either. So she did the best she could, I think. And I think we see what we see as children is not what we know as adults. So I see things differently with my mom. But I'm so thankful for the 20 years that I got. With a mom that loved me. Because I never felt that before. I never felt home. I never felt loved. I never felt wanted. So to have those 20 years with my mom was such a gift.
And that was healing.
It was very healing. And then I went through the whole process of being mad at God again when he took her away. And I had to deal with that again. And, but
Just the constant roller coaster.
always.
How did you get through that?
I felt like I've been grieving my entire life, for a childhood that should have been, justice that was never done. So for me, grief is just kind of a normal part of my life. So I just had to work through learning to live without her again. And I did. The first couple years were rough because I was used to sitting back on the back patio and her just popping in. Hi, Trace. Hi, Mom. What are you doing? Oh, I just thought I'd stop by and see what you're doing. And I would look for her car for the longest time. But when she retired in May of 2014, she got sick in September. And she was in and out of the hospital until December. She went into a nursing home just for rehab right around Thanksgiving. And I took her and she finally was able to kind of take care of herself. So she went home. I took her to the neurologist the day before she passed away. And he said, "You are doing great. I'm not going to change anything. Your meds are great. Your levels are great. I'll see you in 3 months." I was so worried because I'd missed so much work because I barely went to work those 3 months. So I was like, "Mom, let's just run through McDonald's and then I'll get you home." So I lived with that. Why McDonald's? Why? Why did I just take her to McDonald's? But took her home. I stopped by on my way home from work. And she had a couple friends over. And I called her that night. And she said she was just getting ready to go to bed. I called her the next morning and she didn't pick up. And I thought maybe her physical therapist was there because it was about that time. Called her again, she didn't pick up. Called her again, she didn't pick up. So I called my sister, who worked in town. Said, "Have you heard from Mom? Been trying to call her all day." She says, "No, I've been trying to call her too. I'm going to go check on her." And I worked in Greenville. And Tammy called me back and she said, all she said was, "Trace." And I knew. But it was like she fell asleep in her chair and she was at peace.
And to you, it's just total devastation. And you're right back in that hole.
Yep. But one day when I stopped by Greenbrier, she was crying. I mean, she was just sobbing. I'm like, Mom, what is wrong? And she was like, I'm just so sorry. I am so sorry. And I just looked at her. I said, are you talking about what I think you're talking about? She says, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I said, it's okay. It's okay.
So she knew.
She knew. And then 9 days later, she was gone.
How do you get through that? Building that relationship back up, having that connection, having that feeling of love and companionship and feeling worthy of being able to have that relationship with your mom, and then she's taken. You know, how do you come out of that?
Oh, I grieved. I grieved so hard. It took a while. Because she was the first person that I really let in. And it just felt like, I mean, I was angry at God again because I was just like, why did you do this to me? Why? You allowed her to come back into my life. And we've gotten to the place where we are so good. And then you take her from me. I don't understand. I don't understand it. But then, you know, grief turns to anger. Grief turns to begging and pleading. And then it comes, then you realize that grief is grief and you have to work through it. There's no way around it. You have to do it. And I'd sit in my little prayer chair and I would just, some days I would just bawl, and some days I would read my Bible, and some days I would turn on the worship music and just let it go. And finally, it was just like, okay, I think I can handle another day.
Was there anyone in particular that helped you get through that time?
My sister. She was the strong one. I mean, I didn't want to clean out my mom's house, and she was just like, nope, we have to do it. Let's go. Okay. Can we just take a day? Nope, we got to do it. I mean, but she, in her grief, she was helping me with mine. And I knew she was grieving too. But it was so nice to have somebody that actually understood it in the same way.
Can I ask you about forgiveness?
Yep.
Have you forgiven?
Yes, I had to.
Talk about that.
Forgiveness for me was such a long process. And I mean, it came with a lot of reading in my Bible, so much, and trying to understand, and understanding that, you know, that God did not create my life for that purpose. And I had to forgive the monster that came into my life, not because he deserved it, but because I had to let it go. And if I didn't let it go, I was never going to be able to move forward. My biggest challenge was forgiving myself, because for some reason I always felt like it was my fault. And there are still times now I feel like everything that goes wrong is my fault. I'm a carrier. I carry it all. But the forgiveness is, man, it was a process, and it was hard. When he died, my mom actually asked me to do the eulogy. And that was before she believed any of it. And I was like, nobody believes me. No. So I did it. I did not have the strength to say no. So I stood up there and spewed these words that meant nothing to me. And what I wanted to say was, he was a monster. Why can't anybody see this? He was a monster. But I think even saying the eulogy, it was like, I said these words that meant nothing, but now I have to find words that mean something. And those words are forgiveness and perseverance. I have to move forward. And if I don't forgive him, I can't forgive me.
Somewhere out there, there's a little girl, little boy going through, just these unthinkable, evil acts. If that little boy or that little girl is listening right now and hears your story, here's your testimony, what do you say to them?
Speak up. Be loud. Tell somebody. It's not your fault. You find somebody you can trust and you tell them. Do not suffer in silence.
If someone tells you, keep this a secret between you and I, that should be
number one clue.
Yes. Number one clue that you need to tell somebody.
Yep. Run, 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 run.
Run to a family member, a friend, an adult, anyone that would listen. Because the last thing in the world you want is for them to feel how you felt most of your life.
Yes.
What do you think, Ben?
I don't even know where to start. You told me this one would hit me different. You and Sean do like the pre-interviews, and this is just totally blindsided. I had notes and had an idea what it was about, and it just still hit you like a ton of bricks, For the parent or for the, community member or somebody that I was on the outside, like, what can we watch? Like Dan talked at the beginning about Sound of Freedom and watching that. And I remember when Lisa and I watched that, and when it's over, you're just sitting there like kind of staring at the screen, right? Like, you see stuff overseas, you hear about trafficking overseas, and then you realize that here in America, this stuff's going on. And here in Ohio, this stuff's going on. You see doctors, you see all these things where people in authority are taking advantage of the most, vulnerable victims, which are kids. is there anything that you could think that community members, people can just keep an eye out for? Or
Just watch your children. Watch them. Talk to them. Make it known to them that these are the boundaries. Don't ever let an adult beside your mom and dad pass these boundaries. Ever. And if something happens, speak up. You've got to tell somebody.
it's just like, as a community member, you know, you hear your story and it's like, you know, what can we do for the kids that the parents are the problem, you know, like, is there any like signs as a community member or anything that you can think that, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, it's so sad. It's so, for somebody that, you know, there's no justifying it, and there's almost no hope for those kids. It seems like, you know, like in your situation, like, it's almost like, what could somebody else have done, or what could somebody have watched for to help you in that situation? I don't know if there's an answer for it.
Well, and when I was growing up, you know, you suffered in silence. You never talked about it outside the family. Now, thank God, you know, it's more, you talk about it more. It's more prevalent. People do speak up. But it's, as far as knowing who, you don't know. Mm-hmm. And that's the scary part, because a band director, a choir director, a football coach, it could be anybody, and you just don't know. And that's why it's so important to know your children, talk to your children, make sure they're talking to you and not just talking to you surface level. They understand that these things are wrong. They're speaking up if it happens. If they feel like something is not right, speak up.
Or if one of their friends confide in them,
speak up.
Absolutely. All right, Tracy. Last question. If you could sit on a park bench and have a conversation with someone living or deceased, who would it be and why?
The mom I knew for the last 20 years of her life.
What would you say to her?
I don't know. I think we just talk. We just catch up. Because she's missed out on Dustin's babies. Actually, I don't think she has. I believe that she held them first in heaven. But she'd be so proud of Dustin and my sister's kids and those grandbabies, and I'd tell her all about them.
She's proud of you.
I hope so.
She's proud of you in this moment. She's proud of you. You know, you mentioned you've written a book.
Yes.
Talk about that a little bit.
It is I just sent off the second edit. So they are working on the cover and getting it together.
Do you know what the title is?
What Survived Was Me. So it's basically all about this. And I'm excited. I don't know how much longer it's going to take to come out, but they're working on it.
It's amazing. Sean, you got anything back there to add?
I'm kind of like Ben. Thank you. That's all I'll say. Thank you. And talk about those babies, though. Like, you can tell your mom now, like, when you start talking about them, you smile a lot.
Yeah.
So
I love those grandbabies. I mean, Dustin was everything. And when he moved out, I was devastated, because he was my one and only. It's like, what am I going to do? So that's when the cats came into my world, God knew I needed to nurture something. So he sent this cat trail of treats down to my patio, and here comes the cats. But then he got married to Danny, and they had little Bailey. She's 10. And they tried forever to have another one and decided it was not going to happen. And then here comes Warren. And he's all boy, but he's precious. Bailey's my girl, and Warren is he's precious. And I'm just so grateful. I'm so grateful that God did not answer that prayer to let me die.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm grateful as well. I'm grateful that you had the courage to reach out to me. I'm grateful that you had the strength to share. And you talk about your sister being strong. I don't know how anybody could be stronger than you. And all I kept hearing the whole time that you're talking is two words: broken. And then it flipped when you talked about your son, Dustin, and your grandkids, to beautiful. You're beautiful inside and out.
Thank you.
And I know that what you went through, you'll never forget.
No.
But by sharing what you went through, someone out there is going to be helped. And that's our ultimate goal, is to help you in your healing and to help that individual out there who's struggling. And maybe they're not going through it right now. Maybe they went through it 20 years ago, but somebody's going to hear it and start to have that conversation, which will start that healing process. So from broken to beautiful, that's you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming up here. Thank you for having the strength. I hope you sleep better tonight.
I think I will.
We've done 90 some episodes.
96 this is.
I don't know that I've ever had my heart ache as someone was sharing their story like I have with you, and I already knew it. You'd already talked to me about it. But for some reason, I didn't feel ready when you told me back last summer. But I knew I was ready when I reached out to you, and you were ready the whole time. You were already writing a book. So God has amazing ways of getting us through difficult times and then allowing us to see things when it's time.
He prepares us.
Yeah. Your strength is amazing. Your story's powerful, and I'm sorry that you had to go through that.
Thank you.
And we will pray for you every day.
Thank you.
And the legacy you built. I mean, you talk about your mom going through like foster care and not really knowing how to, that whole dynamic when you were a kid and like your family and how it was broken. And then here you are, a grandma, and, you have this beautiful family, and it's like, that's the legacy that you're carrying now. Like all that stuff's the past, and the legacy that you have now with Dustin and his family. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Definitely. Mom's definitely proud of you.
Good.
Definitely. All right, everybody. Someone out there has to hear this story so that they can get through the storm that they're facing or that they're in. And Tracy is remarkable. And so do all the things like share, please share, subscribe, do all those things so that we can get this story out there to help that one person that needs to hear it. And go out and be tempered.
Hi, my name is Allie Schmidt. This is my dad, Dan. He owns Catron's Glass.
Thanks, Allie. Things like doors and windows go into making a house. But when it's your home, you expect more, like the great service and selection you'll get from Catron's Glass. Vinyl replacement windows from Catron's come with a lifetime warranty, including accidental glass breakage replacement. Also ask for custom shower doors and many other products and services. Call 962-1636. Locally owned with local employees for nearly 30 years.
Catron's Glass, the clear choice.
I want to share something that's become a big part of the BeTempered mission, Patreon. Now, if you've never used it before, Patreon is a platform where we can build community together. It's not just about supporting the podcast. It's about having a space where we can connect on a deeper level, encourage one another, and walk this journey of faith, resilience, and perseverance side by side. Here's how it works. You can join as a free member and get access to daily posts, behind-the-scenes updates, encouragement, and some things I don't always put out on other platforms. And if you feel called to support the mission financially, there are different levels where you can do that too. That support helps us keep producing the podcast, creating gear, hosting events, and sharing stories that we believe can truly impact lives. And here's the cool part. Patreon has a free app you can download right on your phone. It works just like Facebook or Instagram, but it's built specifically for our community. You'll be able to scroll through posts, watch videos, listen to content, and interact with others who are on the same journey. At the end of the day, this isn't just about content, it's about connection. It's about building something together, not just me and Ben putting out episodes, but a family of people committed to growing stronger through real stories and real faith. So whether you just want to hop on as a free member or you feel called to support in a bigger way, Patreon is the door into that community. Because at the heart of BeTempered has always been simple, real stories, raw truth, resilient faith, so that even one person out there that hears what they need to hear, and Patreon helps make that possible.